So welcome to the Agile Coaching Exchange tonight. Hope you all had a fabulous summer off and missed us gravely in August. But the good news is we're back with a bang now in September on the run up to Christmas, which you know I get extremely excited about. I'll let you know how many days till Christmas a little bit later on. So today we're joined by Lavaneesh. I don't know Lavaneesh personally, but I have been recommended by a fellow person that I trust. And Lavaneesh is a Scrum.org and a pro Kanban trainer and consultant, and he has his own business providing training. He does lots of coaching, and he's been in the business for over a decade. And so it's an absolute wealth of information to be able to share with us today. So I'd like to extend a warm welcome to the Agile Coaching Exchange, handing over to you, Lavaneesh.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, great. And hello, everybody. How are we all?
Wonderful, fantastic. Thanks for the question.
Awesome. Okay, so welcome to this agile coaching world, guys. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to share my screen as well. Okay, otherwise everything will fall apart, isn't it? Okay, so let's see. Okay, I hope you guys can see my screen now.
All good, all good.
Okay. That means hope you can hear me. Hope you can see me. Okay. Whenever we are talking about certain things, these are the biggest, you can say, scary points. That can people hear me? Can they see my screen? Okay. Can they see me? Once all these things are tick boxed, you can feel a little ease. Okay. So great. Yeah. So guys, so today, what I'm going to talk a little bit about is infusing innovation into the product development. So I believe when you went into your little breakout rooms with few people, you already started having a little chat about what is innovation, isn't it? Yeah. And now what we are going to do is learn more about it as well. Okay. And I also towards the end talk about that how we can use Scrum in infusing this innovation in our work as well. Okay. So little bit about me. I'll not take much of the time. So yes, Helen has already introduced me. So I'm a Pro Kanban trainer, Scrum.org trainer, also run a little business. And nowadays, I am working with a couple of startups and the scale-ups, which are into the educational technology world. So quite exciting things, working on certain AI, artificial intelligence related products and all. So yeah, so you can get to know about me later on. But let's start going into the today's topic as well. Okay. So I believe few of you, if you have joined late, probably you haven't had that conversation. Okay. But when you went into a breakout room, the conversation that we wanted to have with you is that what do you think innovation is? Okay. So what I would like you to do is maybe try to put this into some kind of maximum 2 or 3 word. Okay, so what you can do is you can simply scan the QR code, or you can go to the menti.com and use this code 74453252. Yeah, or I think you have got something in your chat as well. Okay, so multiple options for you. Okay, choose whatever suits best you and give us some information. Okay, so let me see. I'm seeing few things like fixing something is broken, isn't it? Yeah. I'm seeing creativity, openness. Great. Yeah. Novel ideas. Great. Good. So I'm start seeing some good things, new ideas, and outside box thinking, being able to open to change. Okay, so it's good to see some good words, some good conversation. Okay, and let's explain what I think innovation is as well. Okay, so innovation, if I see, it refers in a way. I think when you're in a room, who was it? Emily mentioned something about it as well, that, okay, maybe doing things differently sometimes, isn't it? Okay. And sometimes we think that innovation is always about, building new things. I do not completely agree with that. Okay. We had Sharon, who was talking about as well that sometimes we are taking somebody's idea, but executing this idea a little bit differently as well, isn't it? Yeah. To me, that is also an innovation. Innovation can also happen in form of technology as well. You are solving the problem, but solving the problem differently as well. It could also be linked with maybe some kind of process improvement as well. Okay, you are making somebody's life a little bit better by doing things differently. Yeah, and that's what I think the innovation is. Yeah, and to me, I think that the innovation relies on the three pillars. Okay, I'll talk about those. So first of those pillars is creativity. Okay, we need to think about, let's say, few of you have already mentioned, like the out of the box thinking, generating the new ideas, generating the new way of thinking as well, generating the different solutions of the problems, solving the needs in a different manner. That does require some creative thoughts. Okay, so that creativity is a very, very essential part of the innovation, but that creativity also requires psychological safety and the trust as well. Yeah, so that cannot happen without that creating the culture where we are allowed to make some new things as well and learn from it. But having the creative thoughts and the creative ideas is not sufficient enough. We also need the right execution as well. Okay, so let me give an example. Do you know that there are 42% of the startups, they fail because they are building something that nobody want. They are very good, creative. They are the creative people. Okay, coming up with the brand new ideas. Woohoo, awesome. But then sometimes they fail in the execution. And many of them, even if they succeeded in the execution, they failed in the value creation as well. And when I'm saying value creation, turning those ideas into something market fit, something viable as well. Yeah. So I'll give you one example of it, real life example. How many of you heard of Kodak? Great. And many of you probably know this example as well. Kodak was one of the maybe very innovative company. They are the one who actually invented digital camera. Where they are now? Anybody knows? Yeah, they were creative, but what happened to them? Yeah,
I've got no idea. I think they've just vanished.
Well, they actually have launched their own instant camera, trying to go back into the Polaroid kind of market. But yeah, they're no longer the big name that they were, do they? Because they didn't adopt the digital camera form.
And it's a little bit like Nokia, isn't it? Like everyone had a Nokia phone. I loved my 8310. Where are they?
And what happened, Helen, in the example of the Kodak was, yes, they were creative, they were innovative, but they failed in the execution part of it as well. And what the execution part was that when this idea came up, their trade union, they rejected that idea because they thought that if the digital camera will come, their biggest cash cow, which was the films, they will go away. And they thought that will make the company vanish completely. So said, we do not want to work on a product that is going to impact our cash cow, which is a film. What happened? That innovation got buried eventually. And we all know where the Kodak is now. It's gone. Okay. So coming up with the ideas is not sufficient enough as well. We also need the right execution as well. This is where we need our team members as well. They need to get part of that innovation as well. But also what we need is execution is not sufficient enough if we are not able to turn it into some kind of value. Yeah. Can we connect this with our business goals, our customer goals, our user goals? Yeah. You are not doing innovation for fun, guys. Remember that. You are doing innovation to solve the customer's problem better. You are doing the innovation, finding the innovation so that you can solve the users and the customers' problem needs, which eventually turn into some kind of profitable thing or valuable thing for the company as well. And I think this is where we miss this point sometimes. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's learn a little bit about why do we need innovation as well? Anybody? Why do you need innovation? Lots of people talk about innovation nowadays. Why do you need it?
Emily says to stay relevant in the market.
Ooh, I like it. Stay relevant in the market. Yeah. Because we are living in a competitive world. Things are changing. So I'll give you one example. Something happened in November 2022, which suddenly has changed a lot of dynamic in the product world. Does anybody know what was that? November 2022, and which has changed many things that's happening into the product world. Okay, let's see. AI, yes, Ruth. ChatGPT got launched, isn't it? Okay, and suddenly ChatGPT got launched, and people what they started seeing, oh yes, this thing is possibility. I'm pretty much sure in your company, one way or another, they must be thinking about how to take leverage of the AI, artificial intelligence into the product development. I'm pretty much sure. Yeah. So again, we do need innovation because we live today in a VUCA world. Many of you might have heard this term a lot. Yeah, VUCA, which is volatile, okay, uncertain, yeah, complex and ambiguous. People's needs are changing rapidly, isn't it? Yeah, that happens. Your clients' needs are changing rapidly. I'm pretty much sure there are technological change are also happening as well in form of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all those kind of a thing that is coming. And it is happening with such a rapid pace that it can happen that something that you are learning in the university today might be obsolete by the time you are passed out from the university. Isn't it? And that's what the pace of change is happening right now. And in that, we cannot just stuck to our old thinking. What we need is just respond to the change. Oh, I'm using the word agile kind of a thing, isn't it? Respond to the change over following a plan. Yeah. And that's what we do need to do as well. Adapt to this changing market, industry, technical changes, and all that as well. Yeah. So if I try to summarize these into certain points, okay. So for an example, competitive advantage. Yeah, something stay relevant in the market. Somebody mentioned. Yeah, Emily, you said. Yeah, if your competitors they are changing certain things, sometimes you do need to react to that as well. I'll give you one example of it. So I have worked in banking industry quite a lot. Okay, so big banks like Lloyd's and NatWest, Barclays, and all that. What they do? If you don't believe, they actually try to see what Monzo is doing, what Revolut is doing. Okay, because Monzo and Revolut, they are very, very good in building the digital features, digital capabilities for their customers and the users. And what they try to see is how they can beat or at least match up to those kind of digital banks, the challenger banks there as well. Customer needs are changing and we do need to adapt to that. If you are working into the B2B environment, anybody here working in the B2B environment? Okay. If you are, then your client must be asking for how you are going to use AI for our features, isn't it? Maybe the customer, they don't ask, but client definitely they do ask as well. Their needs are changing around it. We also need to improve our process and the efficiency as well. Okay, if you are working in a system where you taking a lot of time, if your cycle time is quite higher, you want to improve that cycle time. You want to reduce that time to market and gain that process innovation as well. Yeah, fostering a learning culture. Yeah, and what I mean by learning culture here is I don't mean fail fast. I don't like this term, fail fast. Okay, I like the term learn fast. What will happen if you failing but not learning? Yeah, that probably will not work, isn't it? That's completely okay to fail fast, but at the same time, you also need to learn from those failures as well. Yeah. Sometimes one innovation drive another innovation as well. Okay, and this is what happens. It's like a ripple effect that happens. This innovation followed by another innovation, then followed by another innovation, solving complex problem. I give one example here. So when I used to work at NatWest, in one of the element, what we want to do was the problem that we wanted to solve was that how we can reduce the number of errors people are making when they are filling out the company forms. Okay, so they provide details like company reg number, company address, company name, and all those kind of thing. The impact of it on the business was if the company name and these addresses, if they are not right, okay, our credit search engine, they will not be able to find out the company and they will say, company not found, do the manual search. And which is a very, very costly affair for any financial company. We wanted to reduce those number of errors. So somebody suggested, guys, what we need to do is we need to provide a lot of drop downs. Okay, give them a lot of drop downs and probably people need not to type it in and it can fix lots of problem. We started working on it for a couple of days. And after a couple of days working, we still thought that, okay, yes, it can reduce the number of errors people are making, but it's not going to reduce drastically. Okay, and we were doing that brainstorming around it. And we had one of our developer who was coming from the third-party providers, Infosys. Okay, and in that, he just said, guys, why don't you get this information directly from the company house? So guys, if you are not from UK, in UK, there is a public database for all the companies called Company House, where all these information, which I was just mentioning, it's available public. Okay. And we were like, how the hell we can get this from the Company House? He said that, oh, we actually built one API with our previous client. Okay. And what you can do is simply provide the company reg number, hit the button, it will trigger the API, it will go to the company house, fetch all this information, fill the form automatically. And we were like, what the hell? Is it possible? It's like, yeah, we already did it for one of our clients last year. And and that moment, I really thought that why this person didn't share this thing when we were actually doing that designing of the solution as well. Probably somebody just gave that, okay, guys, build the dropdown and move ahead. Okay. But then next time when we were doing the brainstorming, we created a room for everybody to chip in. Then only that person spoke up. So what we also need is that, yes, we do need innovation, but at the same time, we also need a culture as well, where it is allowed to share the ideas and the thoughts as well. Okay. Now, yes, you found out what the innovation is, why we need it. I also have got one more question for you, and which is, from where these innovation actually come from? What are the sources of innovation? Okay. From where these ideas, these doing things differently coming from in your world? So maybe use the same Menti. Okay, that's the next question. So I can start seeing a few things. So coming from leaders.
My screen hasn't changed, so I haven't getting any questions.
The screen hasn't changed.
Is it just me, or is everybody seeing
No,
it?
mine is still saying the presenter hasn't changed the slide yet. So do you need to trigger the next question?
Okay, so let me. Okay, I scan the code again. Did it work? Putting the link in the chat. Oh.
When I press the link again, I get the same one before enter a word.
Yeah, I think within Menti, Lavaneesh, you need to kind of trigger on the next thing. And I think earlier as well, I think you might need to help it share the output of the form.
Okay. Not sure what's happening, but again, okay. With this, why don't you put it in the chat then, guys? Forget this. Maybe we can find out a different way of doing the things as well. Where this innovation is actually coming from, please put it in the Zoom chat. Other industries. Great. Previous ideas and many frustrations. Love it. Frustrations. User feedback. Environmental hackathons. Love it. New technology. General life. Okay. From living in the work, researching, market research and things like that. Yeah. Accidental discovery. Something happens, you don't want to do it, but happened, isn't it? Yeah. That looks great. Yeah. Great. Let me share my thoughts on that as well. Yeah. So this is something I created as part of one of the blog which I wrote last year, that sources of innovation. Okay, I'm not going too deep into these. The thing is, there are various sources of innovation. Few sources you are going to find out within the team, isn't it? Your team members, they have got lots and lots of ideas. Okay. And one thing I always say to the people is, your team members, they are not the Jira ticket burners. Okay. They are value creators. But for that, we need to create room for those conversations as well. Okay. So think about this. Are we creating that room for the people to talk about those new ideas, new way of doing things as well? So maybe you can find out the innovation even within the teams as well. Okay. Sometimes you are going to find the innovation outside the team, but within the same company. I give one example. So in 2014, 15, I used to work in a company, and my CTO of the company, he went to a DevOps summit. Okay. So before that, we didn't used to work in the DevOps and all. We were the old archaic architecture and things like that. He went to a 3-day conference, came back completely transformed. And he became the advocate of, guys, we need to start adopting this DevOps. And he actually started advocating that thing. And my company suddenly changed their way of delivering our products and services. We started using tools like the Jenkins, CI/CD pipelines, automation, and all of that. And within the 6 months, we could see that it had the dramatic positive results in the way we were delivering our products and services. Because of that, what happened? Our feedback loop got shorter. With a shorter feedback loop, what happened? We were getting the more feedback through the data, through the customers, through the users. We could experiment it well. And suddenly an innovation culture, that experimentation culture started building up in my company. In certain places, these innovations, they are also coming from outside the world as well. Anybody heard of this term called GDPR? Yeah, great. Probably no company wanted to do the GDPR, isn't it? It was the forced regulation that you have to do it. And I'm coming from a lot of banking environment. Sometimes banking environment these regulator forces you to bring the innovation. Probably you might have heard of things like the open banking. Banks, they didn't want to do it, but government forced them, regulator forced them to do things like that. Yeah, things like the hackathons. In the company where I used to work in Coventry, we used to do a hackathon every 3 months within the University of Warwick. Okay, and the kind of ideas that we were getting from those hackathons and all, they really helped us in building the new features and the products which were helpful for our customers and our users and all that as well. Probably sometimes you need to look for these market and the competitive analysis. I previously worked in some insurance company, and majority of their innovation was also coming from some kind of industry reports that they generate as well. Okay, so the crux of this entire thing is more about that. Look for innovation. Innovation doesn't appear while just sitting. You have to search for it. Your product people have to search for it within the team, outside the team, even outside your company, within the same industry, or maybe even in the different industries as well. But we need to look for that. Yeah. Any questions so far, guys? Anybody has? No? Okay. So moving on, because that's when I'm going to start talking a little bit about how to integrate this within the Scrum. Everybody knows about Scrum? Yeah. Probably you love it, you hate it, but you know it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. Okay. So how Scrum does support the innovation as well. Okay. So in Scrum, we work in iterations. Yeah. The iterative nature. And that iterative nature, what it does is that we try to build things, deliver the things, and learn from those things in those short cycles. And those short cycles, what they do is they actually create a lot of opportunities for the continuous improvement. Improvement about doing things differently for our users, for our customers, for our businesses as well, process improvements and things like that. Those short cycle, that iterative nature of the Scrum creates a loss of opportunity for us to get better and better. But something that we do not talk a lot about in Scrum is that also the Scrum values as well. Yeah, we need to have the right culture as well around it. And there are 5 Scrum values which people do not talk about. Whenever we talk about the Scrum, people say, oh yeah, product owner, Scrum master, sprint planning, retrospective, sprints. But we forget that in Scrum, there are other things as well. And one of the very important thing is the Scrum values. 5 Scrum values of focus, courage, respect, openness, commitment. Yeah. And I think 2 of these Scrum values, courage and openness, are absolute critical in creating and fostering the innovation itself. Okay, I give you another example here as well. In one organization where I used to work, so it's a Coventry-based software house in itself. So my team, we used to have 2 team members, the senior most team members. One is mainly the coder, another is tester. They have been working together for few years, but they were also quite good friends over the years that happened. Okay. And that trust, what it started bringing was, whenever we are doing some kind of brainstorming session, it used to feel like that they are fighting. Okay. One will say, oh, I think this is the way how we should do it. Another will say, oh, you are crap. Okay. This is absolute shit idea and all that. And then he will just go and debate that as well. And that debate would last for maybe some time. But in the end of that debate, what used to happen was we used to get the best ideas. How you're able to get that level of debate? Because they used to trust each other. They are open for the other people's ideas as well. And that's something that you need as well. We need diverse thoughts as well. Okay, we need everybody's opinion when you're talking about the innovation and all. Okay, so and we should be having that courage to share the ideas and open to accepting the ideas and the feedback, and for that as well. Another angle is the cross-functionality as well. That Scrum talks about the cross-functional nature. Anybody has ever worked in a team where you also had somebody from the designing or the user experience within your team as well? If you have worked in that team, then you know that what's the power of this cross-functional team sometimes you can get. I have worked in a few environment where the design team is separate and the delivery team is separate. What it creates? More dependencies. Yeah, more handoffs. Okay, more formality. But where I have seen that designers are the part of that one designer delivery team, they're part of the one team, you could see that formality goes away eventually. Okay, coming up with a great idea, they say, hey mate, I think this is a really good UI. What the delivery team people they can do is that they can simply create mock-up and things like that, and they can do the prototyping as well. And that's something, what do we want? Okay, so to foster the innovation, we need the cross-functionality as well. That means team has got all the skills to deliver the product. Cross-functionality sometimes misunderstood. People that think that everybody should be able to do everything. It's not that cross-functionality. I'm talking about the cross-functional team. That team has got all the skills as well. Okay, so these are the certain things which are in the Scrum. Yeah, that can definitely create an environment that supports the innovation as well. Okay, now I'll start giving you a few tools and techniques which I have learned over the time period. So one of these things is the design thinking approach. Yeah, so if you ever heard of something like the double diamond of the design thinking. So what double diamond of design thinking talk about is that we have got one diamond, which is the problem space. And then we have got one diamond, another diamond, which is about the solution space. Okay, so what we do when we have got a problem, we try to understand the problem a little bit better. Okay, so we see whether we have got the right people. Have we understood our customers well, the users well, their needs well? And when we explore that the first divergence is happening. Okay, then we try to align this with our goals and all, and that's when you start seeing that and one convergence will happen. And by this point, what you will see is we try to define the problems a little bit better. Okay, this particular space is talking about the problem fit. Then what we do is, yes, now we have understood the problem. Great. That problem can be solved through the multiple solutions. We start exploring the multiple options, different technologies, experimentation, hypothesis, and all that. And then we start identifying certain things through the experimentation as well. Customer interviews, maybe building the prototypes and all that. And eventually we will have the solution, the right solution that can fit for the right problems. Okay. However, it's messy. It is not as linear as it looks like. In my experience, what has happened is sometimes you start with a problem. Yeah, you're understanding, you reach here and you start doing the solutionizing, and suddenly while doing the solutionizing itself, you have learned, what the hell? Our problem was not understood really, really well. And what you do is you go back to the square one. So what you see here is, yes, it's a double diamond, but that double diamond also has got an iterative nature as well. You learn at each level, and then sometimes you can go back. Sometimes it can happen that this double diamond has been followed by another double diamond as well. Okay. But what do we need is that we need to understand the problem as well. So probably this part is talking about understand the why of your why you are building the things. You are not just building the innovation. You can't build the innovation without even understanding who your customers and who your users are, I think. You can't do that. Okay. So, and bigger problem is, what do you think would happen if there is a big gap between this problem space and the solution space? Anyone? What will happen if there is a gap between these two diamonds? The problem definition goes out of the date. Yes. And the rubbish solution. And probably we start building the things.
Voilà, et puis on ne sait plus comment en sortir, surtout.
Yeah. That probably nobody wants as well, isn't it? Yeah. And what I have seen is that many places there is a big conflict between the team that is owning the problem space and the team owning that solution space started happening. They started doing a lot of conflicting as well. Yeah. What do we want is probably we want to merge it together. And that's what we are looking for, cross-functional teams. And if you do that, probably we can start integrating the design thinking approaches within the Scrum as well. So few design thinking approaches, which I will talk here as well. Okay, probably like the empathy mapping. Okay, try to empathize with the customers and the users as well. Understand their needs, understand their problem. What do they think? Okay, probably for that, you would like to talk to your customers and the users as well. Do the customer interviews. Okay, learn about them, invite them to the user testing as well. Okay, customer journey mapping. Customer journey mapping is all about that. Okay, try to understand what are the various steps in the customer journey in itself as well. Okay, where do they face problem? Give one example. What is the right customer journey map? Sometimes we do not know. Okay, if you are building a new journey map in itself. So what we used to do in one of the digital company where we were working, we used to build a lot of Figma prototypes. Anybody know Figma? Okay, it's a tool on which you can create the clickable prototypes and the clickable websites and all that. And what we did was we built the multiple versions of those journey maps. And we invited our users and the customer into the focus group and asked them, okay, which one of these journey is best for them? So we are not just building things based on the hunches. We are building the things based on the true feedback from the customers and the users in itself. Okay. Then the prototyping, paper prototyping. Okay. In many places, what we have done is we start bringing our customers and say, hey, mate, you are onto this screen. Which version is better for you, this or this? Simply doing a rough sketching and things like that, paper prototyping. And we were just getting some feedback and ideas from them as well. Oh, you will choose this. Okay, great. Why you are choosing this? Okay. So if you complement your customer interviews, the focus group with things like the paper prototyping or the digital prototyping, you start getting a lot of ideas from the customers, from the users as well. Wireframing. Wireframing is really great exercise again, where you just try to mock up the rough, sometimes they also call it as a lo-fi designs as well, where you do that, present it to your customers and the users. In one of the company where we were working, before we even started building the solution, what we used to do was we used to wireframing and actually used to show the wireframing into the sprint reviews a couple of times. That guys, in this particular sprint, this is what the few rough sketches that we have of what do you think about it? Yeah. And we were getting a lot of valuable feedback about it, which helped us in building the better products and the better features along as well. Brainstorming. Okay. So design thinking approach also talks about that, getting the thought from the various people as well. Okay. Brainstorming with the people around the ideas and all. There are so many different things that design thinking that gives us, which you can start incorporating in the Scrum during the sprint. Not only after the sprint, during the sprint, all these techniques can be used in your sprint planning, in your product backlog refinement, so that you can understand the value a little bit better. Another thing that you can do is you can also infuse innovation in your product backlog items as well. Okay. Many people feel that, okay, product backlog should only have the user stories and the features. But they forget that one of the really great way you can build a good product backlog item is by adding the hypothesis in that, which you also call it as a hypothesis-driven development, where you write that, okay, we believe that if we deliver this, the customer will achieve this kind of outcome. That's your assumption. Okay, you build a hypothesis, and then what you do is you test out those hypotheses. So my favorite tools whenever I'm into this hypothesis-driven development, if you guys have used it before, great. If you haven't, then guys, try to explore this test card and the learning card from the Strategizer. Really a great tool. And if you really want your leadership and management to understand the power of the experimentation and all, these cards can help you a lot. So what these cards they do, they talk about that, okay, what your hypothesis is. To test out the hypothesis, what kind of test you want to run. Experiment, survey, interview, prototyping, A/B testing, what kind of experiments you're running. Through this experiment, what do you want to measure? And how do you know whether you are right? And when I have had this conversation with many leadership and management, one thing I have learned is they are not stupid people. They are smart people, but it's just that we are sometimes using the term which makes them, you can say, uncomfortable. I have seen many people, they are very uncomfortable with the word experiments. Anybody in the same page? Whenever you use the word experiment in front of the leadership and management, and they're like, ooh, no time for investment. We haven't got budget for that. Just keep on building the features. Yeah. But when I use the word test, sometimes they get it better. So to me, experiments are the best way to mitigate the risk of building something that nobody wants. And I will explain, I will say it again. Experiments are the best way to mitigate the risk of building something that nobody wants. Yeah. And I think our leadership and management, they do understand this. Things like personas. If you have got personas, like which are the fictional character about your users and the customer, add those into your product backlog items. Don't write a product backlog item like, as a user, I want to log in. Which kind of user are you? Are you the Tom, the admin? Or are you the Mark, the end customer as well? Okay. Both have got different needs. Give life to those personas by adding them to your product backlog items as well. Another tool which I'm quite big fan of is the describing your product backlog items, or maybe the goals, in form of the business problem statement. Okay, so sometimes I talk things like the 4 W's of the business problem statement. Talks about the why. What are the goals for the company or your product in itself? What data have you got which suggests that there is a problem? Who are the users and the stakeholders who are impacted by this? And also, what would be the impact my company will get once this problem is solved? When you start using this business problem statement, adding into your product backlog item, we are not just writing features. You are talking about the purpose of the company, the purpose of the users and the customers as well. And when obviously you have got a lot of hypotheses, you can use tools like the hypothesis prioritization canvas as well. Remember, not everything needs to be built. Not everything needs to be tested as well. If something is high value, low risk, just build it and measure it. And something is high value and high risk, probably those are the sweet spot for the experimentation as well. And eventually what this can do is this can help you in doing the better prioritization as well. Yeah. And because you're talking about this, one of the key element of innovation is that what we need is we need to focus more on the outcomes. Okay. You do not build innovation around the features. You build innovation around making your customers and the users' life a little bit better. I know our product backlogs, this is what we have been given. But I would say one more thing at that moment. If this is something that you have been given, think about what outcomes are we trying to achieve from these outputs, and ask yourself one question. Is there any other way this outcome can be achieved? And that to me is a trigger point for a lot of innovation conversation as well. Okay, so start adding the outcomes in your product backlog items. If you are building roadmaps, don't just build the feature-oriented roadmap, start building the outcome-oriented roadmap, which can start driving the innovation within the company as well. Yeah. There are two other things in the Scrum framework which can also support the innovation. One of it is the sprint review, where you have got your stakeholders along with the team as well. So don't limit your sprint review only about the features. Maybe talk about your experiments as well. Okay, what have you learned? What kind of testing that you have done? Share the data with them. Okay, and talk about the various experiment that you want to run in the future as well. Show your outcome-oriented roadmap. All these things, what it does, it allows your stakeholder to understand this thing as well, that experiments are not for fun. They are there to actually help the users, customers, and also our businesses as well. This is a perfect opportunity for us to start building that experimentation culture even outside our team as well. Okay, so please do not lose out on this opportunity to talk about this innovation and experimentation within the sprint reviews. Okay. Now, one thing which really supports the innovation massively in the Scrum, which I think is the sprint retrospective. Yeah. Anyone has seen sometimes that in the retrospective, only 1 or 2 people participating, but rest of the other people are quiet. Yeah. Where the louder voices taking over the quieter voices. And I think a lot of innovation get missed because they are hidden behind those quieter voices. Okay. So maybe what we need in that term is maybe start building the better facilitation techniques like liberating structures. If you haven't don't know about the liberating structure, guys, I would highly suggest please explore this. They are the really great way in facilitating the conversation, the group conversation. And one of those liberating structure is like 1, 2, 4 all. What do? You give people 1 minute on their own to add their thought. Okay, you are trying to giving an invitation for everybody to add in. Okay, but then next thing that you do is you put them into the pairs. Now what happens is, I really like that pair part, because I have seen that sometimes people, they do not participate even if you give them the 1 minute on their own. Okay, but when you put those people into the small group pair, what you see is it's very difficult for people to stay quiet if and only one person is talking, and that brings the additional accountability. And that's where I see that loss of quieter voices start joining as well. Okay, and then these kind of liberating structure, what they do is they are including everyone within this innovation as well. Innovation about our process improvement, innovation about our technological improvement as well. Yeah, and these are the few things that we can do here. And when you start identifying certain improvement that can help us in doing things differently, do not throw those things away as well. I'm a big fan of having a team awesome backlog. At the end of the retrospective, maybe make a note of those things. What are the actions that we want to take as well? Allow the team to own that team awesome backlog as well, where all this innovation, all these great things are stored. And do not, I always suggest to the people as well, do not even wait for the retrospective to that to happen. Throughout the sprint, lots of ideas come to the people's mind. Add it into that backlog, and maybe your retrospective could be focused more around the implementation of that innovation rather than just identifying the innovation itself. So that tools like these, I would say, Team Awesome Backlog, liberating structures, okay? All these things, what they do is they start talking about that how we can continually improve as well. And if we keep on improving every sprint, I think even if you are making a little improvement, you can see that in the 6 months time or the 5 months time, your team is at another level. So don't just do the retrospective and throw those action items as well. Sometimes you can simply do the retrospectives and focus on the implementing the ideas itself rather than finding out always the new ideas. So, okay. And I would like to conclude this with just one thought, which is that learning must not stop, guys. Especially in the today's world where the technology changes are happening rapidly, the market is changing, industries are changing, users and the customers' needs are changing. Okay, we need to learn a lot. We need to learn about our users, our customers, what kind of problems are they facing as well. Sometimes you call it as the problem fit. What kind of things that you can do in the problem fit? Interviews, focus groups, okay, surveys. Those are the really good techniques that can help in understanding the problem fit. Then is the solution fit. Maybe do the prototyping, do the things like the feature fakes, do the other different kind of medium level of the experimentation techniques as well to understand what are the right solution that we got. But then don't stop there as well. Also think about the market fit as well. Are people going to buy it? Maybe the price testing, A/B testing, scale your experimentation to the next level as well. And what it is that you need to keep on learning about our users, our customers, the solutions, the technology, market. Learning must not stop, guys. And I think this is what the innovation means to me is finding out the new things, new ideas, new processes, new ways of delivering the things to the people. Yeah. And thank you.
Brilliant. Well, let's give Lavaneesh a round of applause.
And I'm open for the questions as well.
Yeah, let's open the floor. So feel free to talk on your mic for any questions that you've got. If you feel less confident doing that, pop it into the chat channel and either Ben or I will ask for you. So I'll give you a few seconds to ponder on that bad boy. Any questions from the room? Sometimes it takes them a little time to type it, so I have to give a little fill at this point.
Yeah.
I've got a question that might start us off.
Go ahead, Ben.
Could you talk us through where maybe an innovation has come in to a team or an area of business you've been working with and it's kind of surprised you, and maybe you wouldn't have had it that come up if you hadn't been putting some structure around how you innovate?
So this is probably you're asking about the accidental innovation, is it, Ben?
No, just any, an innovation where this maybe surprised you or you thought, oh gosh, we wouldn't have found that out otherwise.
We had a lot around it when I know I'm talking about a little Kanban type of thing here, Ben, but in one of the company where I used to work, we started adopting the Kanban way of working. Okay, so flow metrics. Okay, and before that, we didn't know, especially around that, how these dependencies and all these, they are actually impacting our flow of the value. Okay, so what happened was when we started looking into the data as well, and something that we learned around that time was that our cycle time in the past few months got increased, mainly because of the decisions were not within our hand, they were in the outside hand as well. Yeah. And that moment, I would say the head of digital, what they did was, when they came to know about this thing, that actually this thing is increasing quite a lot, what they actually helped us was that allowing our product owners in a bit of the decision-making power and the delegation. And we had no clue about this thing earlier, that, okay, this is something that could be really, really helpful for our team. But when that delegation of that decision-making power, few of those were given to the product owner, that massively started improving the amount of experimentation that we can do, as well, an amount of things that we can do. So I had no clue about that, but that identification of the data started triggering off another conversation, that another conversation started another conversation, and eventually we came to know that how much we can do if that kind of support has been given to us by the leadership and the management. I don't know whether it's the right example or not, Ben, but yeah.
Well, only you can tell me whether it was or not, because it's your experience. But thank you very much for answering that.
And we've got a question from Ruth in the channel. How do you counter the culture of frustration when innovative ideas are offered to product owners and not prioritized, or the business doesn't have space to focus on them at that time?
My biggest concern for something like this is that when we have been given those innovative ideas and the business is not focusing on it, is sometimes we fail in connecting those innovation with the business goals. Yeah. And this is where I think the certain tools like impact mapping helps massively, if you have ever used it. So what impact mapping that does is, it has got the business goals in it, and then business goals connect with the actors, and then you have got the actors outcome that you're looking for, and then the features. Okay. And something which I have always found it much better is when I represent this impact map to the stakeholders and the leadership, then they get it. But if I just simply take the list of ideas in front of the leaders and managers, they don't get it. I think their way of thinking is very different. They understand the users, customers much better. And one thing I have learned in that is, it is much easier to prioritize outcome than prioritizing the outputs. Much, much, much easier. And our leaders, they do understand those outcomes. So hence, the more we start talking in the language of the outcomes and start putting it into our features and our user stories and all, I think this helps a lot. But if they cannot see the business value within the innovative ideas that we are bringing, probably they are always going to be, I think, a little bit against those kind of things. We have to start adding that why we're doing the experimentation. And one of the things that we need to say is, it is also to mitigate the risk of building something that nobody wants. It's a very good risk mitigation strategy.
Hey, hopefully that's helped Ruth. She's nodding and smiling, so that's a good sign. So we've also got one from Sharon. Is there a good template example of impact mapping? Love that.
Yes, and I can share that. And I have given an entire 1 hour long webinar this May on the impact mapping, where I have given a lot of examples on that as well. Probably that's something I can share as well.